We thank you so much for watching Law School Made Easy at Law School Made Easy 256. We thank you so much for subscribing, sharing, and liking our videos. Please subscribe, share, keep liking, keep sharing all our videos. Today we want to look at family law, and we want to discuss a case in a topic called promise to marry, and this case is called Tumwine Richard and Kyarikunda Fortunat. This was a case in Kanungu. It's a case from the Magistrates Court of Kanungu. Now, in this case, Tumwine paid tuition, paid school fees for Kyarikunda Fortunat. Now, when he paid his money on the promise that he will get married, just to give you a background of this case, Kyarikunda Fortunat went to one of the school where she was a student teacher, and she was a teacher trying to study and teaching students, where they met with Tumwine. And Kyarikunda had hopes of doing a diploma in law. So he asked Tumwine, who had interest in her, who wanted to vibe her, and wanted Kyarikunda to be the girlfriend or the wife. So what he did, Kyarikunda Fortunat told Tumwine that pay for me tuition. I study law, a diploma in law. After studying law, I'll become your wife. We shall get married, and then I become your wife. Tumwine said, that's okay. So Tumwine started there and then to finance her education with the hope that they will get married in the end. So as time went on, when Kyarikunda was completing the course, Kyarikunda decided to tell Tumwine that he will not marry him. After all, he was an old man. But I want to remind you, while all this was happening, Tumwine was trying to pay the tuition, keeping the receipts. He was organizing a function, introduction. He had bought things, but whatever he bought, Tumwine had a receipt of whatever he had bought. So when Kyarikunda gave him the bad news, that look here, I cannot marry you simply because you are an old man. So Tumwine told her, you are breaching the promise we made. We made a promise that after your school, you're going to marry to me. Kyarikunda was very clear, you're an old man. Where can I take you? In other words, Kyarikunda Fortunat had detoothed Tumwine. So Tumwine went to court. He went to court and filed a suit claiming that there was a breach of promise to marry. So meaning that Kyarikunda had promised Tumwine that after school, if you pay for my tuition and then you come, we shall be able to get married. So while in court tasked Tumwine to prove whether there was a promise to marry. What does it bring to you? Number one, that if you're to prove a breach of promise to marry, it is the plaintiff, the person who has reported the case, to prove, one, that there was a promise to marry, and that that promise to marry was breached by someone. Now, to prove that there was a breach of promise to marry, one, he presented the receipts of tuition receipts, that I was paying tuition for this girl. So he presented all the receipts, and the court ascertained that yes, these were valid receipts. He never stopped there. He presented all receipts of the things he had bought in a bid to get married, in a bid to organize the first function, which is the introduction ceremony. So all these receipts were presented to court, and court found that Kyarikunda Fortunat had breached a promise to marry. And because she had breached a promise to marry, Tumwine was entitled to damages. And the court awarded 9 million shillings to Tumwine as damages. Now, this was to compensate him because he had relied on the promise. So, what do we get out of the case of Tumwine Richard versus Kyarikunda Fortunat? What do we get? Number one, that when there is a promise to marry, the person who has been promised that I'm going to marry you should show reliance. You should have relied on the promise. The way it was set clear in the case of Tumwine, when they said that Tumwine paid tuition with a view reliance that he would marry this girl after paying tuition. So therefore, the girl's changing court was of a view, the girl, kyarikunda fortunat, is stopped from from rejecting or from not fulfilling what he had promised. 2, you must prove that there was a promise to marry, but a breach was by the other person. You must prove that the other person who promised also breached the way Tumwine was able to prove that yes, indeed, kyarikunda fortunat had breached a promise which she had made, and therefore Tumwine was awarded damages of 9 million for compensation for emotional distress and all those things which come along with breach of a promise to marry. So that is the case of Tumwine Richard versus kyarikunda fortunat, which is a case in Kanungu Magistrate Court. So when we are quoting this case, is very important. You cannot start with it because it does not come from the courts of record. However, it must be among the cases because it is locus classicus. For that reason, for the purposes of a breach promise to marry. So many of you who are there promising each other, you'll be taken to court because you promise and then you breach the promise you made to each other. For as long as somebody relies on that promise, then that promise can be, of course, there are defenses. In our subsequent video, I will discuss elaborately the principle of promise to marry, where I will give you all the principles, the defenses, the remedies which are in that. But for now, that has been the case of Tumwine Richard and kyarikunda fortunat. Thank you for watching Law School Made Easy at Law School Made Easy 256. Subscribe, share, like our videos. Thank you so much.